Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you want to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 69 of The Captain's Heart. Gralgiran entered, and the beta stepped away from the center of the bridge. Update. We are at null momentum. Mongarthis, or Batilazan, said the trail of particle leads to what is at the limit of the sensors, and the beta nodded to we ram thick jo well the rim at the sensor. We picked up a stricture and determined it at this distance, but we have nothing on record anywhere near here. I confirmed power usage. There's been no indication the scans were picked up since. Indication of alpha active scans on their part? None alpha. Any communication from that location? No alpha. Jurani replied, nothing in any of the frequencies that carry I don't need the can that carry information. At that range, will their passive sensors detect us at our current power consumption? Passive doesn't detect power until we're about to impact with them, but they will be able to tell the broadband radiation propulsion emits out of the background at about 1 light year, but that will depend on the quality of their system. Tome, option to approach. Drift, the pilot replied. We ram. How close can I get to them if I only use one propulsor to slow us? One array will. Not one array, not an array, one. Let me run the numbers, the male replied. Can we even slow with just one of them? Jurani asked, and the beta cleared his throat. Apologies, Alpha. It is a valid question. Tome, it's my understanding one propulsor barely generates any momentum. Barely isn't none, Captain. It's all about how fast you need to get there and what sensor can tell me about when their sensors will pick up what I'm doing. Okay? Best I can work out is that unless they've got their hands on state-of-the-art equipment, they'll detect the emission of one propulsor when we ram them. I don't think that's the goal, the beta stated. And I'd like to be there before they are done doing whatever they are and move away. All right. So, what's the fastest I can get us to a light? So, what's the fastest I can get us to a light year and a half, just in case they have better sensor than we think pirates would from them, and be at a speed that lets us crawl to a stop before we hit them? Is 500 kilometers acceptable? I'd prefer not to not I'd prefer they not see us if they have camera pointed in our direction. Toman, we ram fick Joel Dirim chuckled. Unless we shine a light on them, Alpha, the sensor officer said, we are going to be nothing more than a dot among an infinite number of them. All right. Time frame, pilot. The fastest I can get us there without margin of error is 18 hours. You give me 28 and I can narrow that our arrival position to a micron. You have 28. Don't stress the precision. You have command, Beta Mongartis or or Batilizan. He stepped away from the center. The Beta took his place. Acknowledge, Alpha. Sensor, remain alert for indication they might have detected us. Pilot, be ready to come to a full stop as sensor reports detection. Com, monitor communication for anything trying to pass itself off as something else. Gralgiran entered his office and called up the number rooster. 28 hours gave him time to activate as many packs as he thought he needed, but he didn't want to needlessly wake personnel who might be needed to defend the Bane if the pirate had ways to retaliate. He sent instruction to 18 frontline betas and 2 of his 3 covered ops betas. The door chimed. Enter. Tom walked in. The course is set. We'll be accelerating for the next 4 hours. Beta Mongardis will bring a pilot so I can rest and come back for the final part. I know you have a lot to do. A lot I know you have to do a lot of alpha stuff to get ready, but I'm sure that can wait an hour while I help distract you and you can get back to this with a clear mind. Thanks, Tom. But the situation needs me to be ready at any moment. Once I'm done with this, I'm heading back to bed with Jer. All right, then. I hope Zinila Aran shares your bed and you get to enjoy your heart and your rest. You too, Tom. His friend laughed and Gargaran contacted Mechanical. Captain, the female answered. Mechanic, what's the status of the boarding shuttles? Ready to go. As per beta the Cynical Dossier, we are getting both of the stealth shuttle ready. They'll have undergone full check before the end of the next shift. Thank you. Called up the Beta's plan. It was rudimentary, since he had just informed her she'd be involved, but her intent to reach the ship's reactor was already there. Zorfiel would only file her plan once she had worked out all the details, but it would be with, well, yeah, it would be within time, with enough time for him to plan with. Yeah. For him to work with it. And around whatever his covered ops operation packs would do. With everything as prepared as he could for the moment, he headed to his apartment, his bed, and his heart. How confident are you? He asked the males, looking over the indistinct image of uh, looking over the indistinct. Yeah, I don't want on his deck. The image is floating. The image floating. I've just given myself above his desk. He could make out the forms of 3 ships, and that one was little more than the infrastructure. But unlike Tom and Akla, Aklaper Gadan, Wum Foltarel, he couldn't tell anything about what kind of ship they were. Definitive, Alpha, the hunter replied. He's going to want more than that, Tom sighed, whispered, then straightened. Sorry, Captain, but accurate. The male glanced at Tom, who nodded for him to take the lead. It was the first time the male had interacted with Gralgiran as an active hunter instead of the sensor officer, and it showed. Maybe he needed to be part of the exercises, so they'd be used to him by the time they were called to action. May I, Alpha? He motioned to the projection, and Gralgiran nodded. The male manipulated it with the skill of someone who spent a lot of time working around images, turning it and cutting out sections to set aside, then setting an identification algorithm on it and moving on to another section of the ship. My assertion that the skeleton of the ship is a Shimbari design is based purely on overall design of the structure, so I might be wrong, but he highlighted a smaller ship attached to the complete looking one. That's a Storgan Kiramor Atharir. I'm certain of it. I served on the... He's not going to need quite that much, Tom said, smiling. Sorry, Captain. Gargarian kept from chuckling. We tracked down the Hurona Dialan, and that's their preferred ship. Weren't those pirates eliminated? Gargaran asked, and the male beamed. Yes, Alpha. At least as much as any of the Halans can be exterminated. They're like Mushmik that way, the way they're always reappearing. But I'm not saying it's them, just that is how I'm familiar with the design. It went out of production well over a century ago, but so many were put in service that a lot of them are still flying, if in need of constant work, which is what makes them cheap, Tom added. And we know how much Alans like cheap. Any idea what the other ship is? It was the one the hunter had searches going on part of the design. Kelsirian, clearly, he replied, putting another part into its search. Of course, Tom said with mild sarcasm. Clearly, he tilted an ear at Gralgiran's look. Their ship's not something I've ever gotten to know. There was never an inkling I'd fly one yet. All Gralgiran knew of the Kelsirian ship was that is what he'd seen of them, more bulbous than streamlined. Something about them enjoying dens near the surface was the best he'd understood from the one time he'd asked one of them why their ship looked so weird. He'd been young and not as diplomatic as time had taught him to be. I'm trying to identify which of their design it is. Knowing that should give you more information to plan the trails of the hunt, Alpha. Gralgiran called up the information on the Ahithon Pride. Can it be that? He asked, making it visible to the working hunter. He looked, then moved the image aside to bring up a floating keyboard and typed. With an ease that impressed him. Gralgiran had never gotten the hang of those without a well for his claws to tap the bottom of. Yes, enough common points. I'm confident in saying that this design matches the ship we're looking at. Any way to know which of the Halan clan we're dealing with? The hunter looked at him, momentarily confused. I'm sorry, Alpha. Identify the clan isn't something I studied, but there are no marking on the Kiramor. The database identifies as one of theirs. Thank you, Hunter. The information will be useful. Tom, please stay. Once the door closed, he continued. I've denied Zorfiel's request that you pilot the shuttle our pack will use to board the ship. Reason, Captain? He asked, his tone neutral. You mean other than you being a civilian? The fact you're the best pilot on the ship will let me approve your use on the hunts that requires that kind of skill, but I don't see that here. It's going to be a standard stealth approach that any skilled pilot can handle. Understood, Captain. The tone wasn't forced. Tom never sought to be in the action, but he also didn't shy away from it when needed. But you're also going to be awake handling our approach for 14 hours unless you've changed things. I haven't. And I want you here in case these pirates have an ambush planned for us. The Bane isn't a shuttle, and only an expert can get it to move in ways that can save lives when under fire. Thank you, Captain. I appreciate your confidence. You've earned it. Now, go. Unless you change things, you have 6 hours before you need to be at the helm. Go live. How about you? Gralgiran sighed. With the information you and Hunter Alka Prayer Dagan Wumful Torel brought me, I need to work out the assault plan. That's going to keep me busy until we need to start hunting. Remember to live, Growl. The hunt can't be everything for you anymore. I will. Thanks, Tom. Now go find someone to tire you out so you can get enough sleep. While he figured out how these pirates might make use of both ships' layout to defend themselves. And that concludes chapter 69 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story, where it's actually ahead somewhat from when these chapters go live. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.